Okay.
Right. Hello, my name is Greg Robin Smith. I'm the managing director of the Washington Shakespearean Festival, and I am delighted and honored to have with me Mia. Hello.
Hello.
Mia's in Florida, and I'm in near Seattle. And Mia and I met over Shakespeare at a medieval Renaissance event back in Mississippi. Is that where it's located?
Yeah, Mississippi.
All right.
Lumberton.
Couple of years ago, and we have been made fast friends and have been chatting ever since. And Mia has agreed to be the interviewer today, so I can give a year-end encapsulation of the many things Washington Shakespearean Festival has been up to, and then use this as as a way of explaining what some of the things we have been doing are going on. Just some of our variety of things. So if you have that list handy, and feel free to go off script and ask whatever else might be happening with you in your head, as far as this might be an interesting topic to go into. Feel free.
You talked about moving into an office.
Well, as every struggling nonprofit knows that, and even I was reading Kenneth Branagh's his early memoir from when he was just starting Renaissance Films, the company that produced so many of his Shakespeare adaptations, starting with Henry V. And one of the reasons why he wrote a memoir at such an early age is because everything for Renaissance Films was being run out of his flat. And so, like, all the stacks of paper, all the file cabinets were all in his apartment. And they came to him and said, "We would like to, you're doing all these great things. People are interested in you. We would like you to write a memoir." He said, "I'm kind of young," because he was only, I think it's still in his early 20s or so. And they said, "Well, we will give you this much money to write this memoir as an advance." He went, and he took the money and he got an office, and he moved all those file cabinets and everything else out of it into an actual office. Um, and so I'm following his example as I try and do in pretty much all things. And so we have been struggling with having, wherever I live is where the office has been, which is takes up a huge amount of space. So we've had a supporter, and Joan let's call her, and she was my former landlady when I was first bachelorizing myself, and before I got married to my operatic soprano, Eleanor. And so when I moved out, we stayed in touch, and she's been a big supporter of the WSF since its beginning. And it really was her connection that got us the accountant CPA who could finally help us get our paperwork through. So that networking, that connection has been very important, and she's just helped me stay sane in this crazy business. And so she said, "Listen, I have an office, and I don't take up all the room, so you can have this half of the office." So that's where we are now located for an actual office. So it's really nice having a dedicated area, dedicated desk, dedicated computer terminals, dedicated file cabinets, bookshelves, and it's marvelous. So that has really come at a time when we are expanding. Now we actually have a space where I can kind of dedicate, and then she can be there and kind of make sure I don't go off the rails. She's helping me. Or we took up a section of wall on one of these big calendars that shows the year at a glance, and like well over half of the dates are filled on it now. And
Wow.
that's kind of what's happening now. So anyway, so the office is not only a convenient space, but it's also almost a metaphysical aspect of I'm going to the office, I'm going to work in the office, and you can really focus. And then, like I said, as I'm making my plans, I kind of talk them through with her, and she's very practical, and helps. So that having that voice there, having that input there, really helps um, as well. So that's been one of the things that's been going on with us, and I'm very, very pleased with. And I got my business license stuck up on the wall,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
yes, it's very, very cool. And I have actual office hours. Are usually at least 1 to 2 days a week, and of course, I still do stuff on my phone, and write, do a lot of writing from home. But that has been, just like I said, a physical manifestation of things that have been really developing for us, with more connections, more opportunities, and more support coming in. more fundraising. So this has been so that's just kind of that was a big thing for us to actually have a dedicated space where you know we now have a real office, and yeah, I should
It's
like
fantastic.
yeah, and we've got some people online who are interested in helping with more of the organization, giving people calls, doing some outreach for us to so I don't have to take those hours. I can use my time to help direct and help since that's what I am is the managing director, and although I'm
Hmm.
still doing a lot of the performing and stuff as well, which is my love, of course, but it does. It's kind of nice that it helps. It's almost like a delegation, getting somebody else to do a portion of it, even if that somebody else is an office space.
That's great. Sound so you get to live your passion.
Oh, well, so I retired. Like most every performer in the entire world, especially in the United States, in North America, almost, the pyramid of those people employed or trying to make it in the performing arts is a little bit like the French society before the French Revolution is that the people on the very, very tippy top of the pyramid are people, and bless them. You have people like Taylor Swift and uh, Penelope Cruz and Hugh Jackman, and these people who they're making millions of dollars. They bring happiness and joy to people all over the world, and that's great. And and they're way, way up at the top. And then there's everybody at the bottom who are trying to get jobs, and some people make some of their income, with commercials and performing in nightclubs and such. And but they have to have sometimes that's enough where they just have to have a part-time job. And other times it's like, no, they have their full-time job, but they get to gig a little bit. And the sad thing about the way that this is stacked up is that if you make enough money from your performing art that the IRS is interested in how much money that is, you're in the top 10%. So like the bar is kind of low. So I've been very fortunate that for most of my life, I have been in the top 10% because I've always made some, few thousand, maybe five, $10,000 a year, doing
Oh,
different gigs and whatnot. And sometimes it's been less, sometimes it's been more, and sometimes it's been my only occupation. Um, and I did a children's theater for 9 months, and that was glorious because that's what you did, and then everything else was paid for on the tour. It was a great experience. But um, that being that said, so one of my main jobs, it seems to circular always come around to driving. I started as soon as I graduated from college in '77. I started driving for the YMCA and drove a wheelchair accessible van. And then I moved over to Seattle and I got a job, delivering things for, for an electronics company. And then I got, worked for our metro, our bus system for a while. And I was working at the University of Washington just for a year or two, driving their shuttles and buses around that they use to drive patients and medical personnel from clinics to clinics. And I was going to do that for a year or two. And 32 years later, I finally retired, and I still drive occasionally when they're short-staffed, and if I have the day free. But that experience in that during that time, because it's a state job, I've got benefits. If I like when I was performing down in Texas or performing back in the Dakotas, whatnot, I say, hey, I got vacation. I'm going to take this week or two off, go here, do, and they said, fine, go off, and I would go perform, and then come back and have my retirement. I have medical benefits, et cetera, university credit benefits, et cetera. So and after 32 years, I finally did retire. So now I can do this full time, and anything else falls into the edges that where theater used to live. And so that's been a marvelous change. And now I think I'm actually busier than I was when I was working full time at the U, which is, I asked for it. I said, please, to the muses in the air, let me be a full time performer. All right, moron, here you go. And I'm currently I'm running the Shakespearean Festival. We have a branch in Idaho now. We've been asked to provide pop-up Ren fairs in the Skagit Valley, which is about an hour and a half north of Seattle.
Mhm.
Just got contacted by a city that we helped produce a medieval and Renaissance fair back in the 80s, and said, "Could you please come back? Are you interested in coming back?" Yes, because we could. I said, "Our downtown, we really want to develop it, and we think this would be a good thing." I said, I can do Shakespeare there. I can get you a Chautauqua Institute, which is what I do with Ben Franklin. It's a first-person interactive thing. We can do concerts. We can do music schools. We can do classes. We can do, teach people how to run recording studio. We can do, how to create a character for your own Chautauqua. We can talk about Shakespeare classes, and we could do all these things, including, of course, a Renaissance fair. That's developing. And I'm in a Celtic punk band called the
Oh,
Blarney Tones. Uh, and it's an 8-member group. And man, that group is tight. And there's some wildly talented musicians there. And I'm now in a trio. It was a Renaissance fair trio called Socks and Buskin. And I'll be putting inserts into this video later, um,
mhm.
with pictures and contact information. And so all this is rolling. And then I have a wife. We got married in July this year, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. She's still performing. It was Seattle Opera. She's been there for over 27 years.
Oh, wow.
She's an operatic soprano, a spinto soprano, if you know Fachs and voice
Hmm.
types. And so she still has, and so all those things, and writing projects, books, plays, et cetera, that are on the book. So there's the issue is finding the right time and getting the right organization going, and just also having some time for friends and for family and walking the dog. So
That's important.
all that's happening now because of what we've been doing, and and so that it is an exciting time. It's back. New Renaissance fairs are coming online, and we are happy to be able to comply. We're going to Montana, to Idaho, Oregon, I think this year, Washington State,
Hmm.
and then we're doing presences at Emerald City Comic Con, and we have got um, these bookings now up in Skagit Valley. Remember the Chamber of Commerce up there because that's where we want to eventually be centered, and so it is a pretty happy thing. Um, so yeah, so those are some of the things that are going on with us right now. And um, in mid-July, we're going to be flying back out, and I'm going to be doing a show, and I'm hoping a series of classes there on the various things that on Shakespeare, on Chautauqua, and on working Renaissance fairs. And then while I'm out there, she recommended I contact a place in Manhattan. Don't have that deal sealed up yet, so I'm not going to mention the name quite yet, but I will
Hmm.
certainly post that. But they're interested in having me again for an evening performance and maybe 3 days worth of classes before that. So one will be in Brooklyn, where the old Stone House is, and one will be in Manhattan. And my hope
Hmm.
there is I was recommended to do a show in Manhattan at some point years ago and bring in producers who would then maybe hire the show for their theaters, not just in New York, but a lot of people have multiple stages or they book for multiple stages all up and down the East Coast. So
Hmm.
I could take the Franklin program and or my other programs. I could speak. I can because I lecture at colleges and universities now on Shakespeare, so I could do a guest education program. Speaking to a class, for drama students, for scholars. I can talk about, with my Franklin work on American Revolution and the importance of Franklin and the individuals that made up the revolutionary movement, the Enlightenment movement here in the colonies.
Hmm.
And also talking about, how what a great resource Chautauqua is for the modern American actor or modern, any modern actor actually, and the importance of Shakespeare still for general education, etc. And do a entire, like I said, tour, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, that could happen as well. So we're really excited by um, that happening as well. Um, and then, of course, the Franklin program continues to be promoted here, doing fundraisers for people with it. And because but what we normally do is, let's say, a PTA has an interest in having a fundraiser, and they get a little bit tired of selling cookie dough and wrapping paper to their parents. Well, with me, what happens is that they say, okay, we're going to have you in on February the 1st. Great. And that's like three months before the show, or for longer. Great. And what they do is they give tickets to their parents. And they say, parents, you don't have to buy these tickets, right? There's 100 people in the PTA, and you're each going to get 5 tickets. That's 500 tickets. And it's going to be in the cafeteria. Okay, so no big setup, no big production. A Chautauqua is normally done just on a blank stage, almost no props, there's no flies, there's no sets, there's no because I'm the only one in costume. And so you have 3 months to sell your 5 tickets to your friends and neighbors. Just, here is a poster you can put up in your work cubicle and sell. So people is, okay, great. I don't have to pay for this. I'm just selling the tickets. And so you got 500 tickets sold, even at $10 a piece. That's $5,000. And there's almost no money for advertising because it's direct sales. You got each of your, you do a little bit of free PSA, put up the sign on the, some, advertising on your billboard out in front of the school, and who knows else may walk in the door. We will take a piece of that, which goes to the WSF, Washington Shakespearean Festival, for our budget, and then they keep the rest. So it's a very quick and easy, over and done one night, and you get the public into your school. Some of them who may be paying taxes on that school who don't have any kids there, but like, oh, this is what my taxes pay for. This is kind of cool. And what a Chautauqua is it's not a one person play. I saw Hal Holbrook. Maybe some of your older friends, people listening, will remember Hal Holbrook doing Mark Twain Tonight. A great show. I saw him once live in Spokane, and it was a great show. But it's a script, same show every night, light cues. This always happens after this, after this. It's a regular structure. Chautauqua is a little bit like that, but it's completely unscripted. And what it is simply, I'm in character, and I've done this broad-based research on Franklin's life and the people in his life, and the times that he lived through. And then I'm just coming up and I'm having a conversation with the audience. There is no fourth wall, which is basically how I like doing Shakespeare anyway, and performance in general. And the audience then, the topic can shift. It's really like a conversation. I can go back and forth in time. And then the last hunk of it is where the audience gets to ask Ben questions about his time or his view of modern times. And the character knows when they died. They know the basic line of history since then. So you can ask them about, cell phones, and about the current political situation, and about new countries coming, and they will have some awareness of it. But since things repeat so much, I mean, basically, if you've ever gone back to teach a lecture at a grade school or something, that you'll notice that all the kids that you went to grade school are still there. Basically, is that, yeah, oh, you're like Johnny, and you're like Sue, and you're like, Leslie, and that you are doing, this is the same characters. And so, Franklin knew everybody that we know. He knew all the politicians that we have because they simply repeat themselves. Character. That's why we are, when we see Aristophanes, a play by Aristophanes or Shakespeare or Marlowe or anybody in between, Gamma Gurdon's Needle, etc., we still understand what's going on because people and plots and passions don't really change. And so that's, and I present that, and that's really what people walk away with, going, because they get to participate in that. They get to present, and they walk away feeling, I felt like I was actually talking to Thomas Jefferson or Mary Baker Eddy or, Rosa Parks, whoever the person is up on stage. They can actually feel like they've had that conversation with them. And so this is an effective program. This is why I also like teaching Chautauqua, because as an actors, you and I, if we're cast in A Midsummer Night's Dream or As You Like It, we know that rehearsals start here, first performance is here, the show ends here, and we know that the day after this, we're out of a job.
Yeah.
We know that there's no more show. So that means that I can book myself to go into a library, a school, and do my character from here on out. And I know that I can do that character during the day and all this time, etc. And so it really gives, because it's always in your back pocket, and you spend the rest of your life learning more and more about your character or characters.
Um, how about the glob, the globette, and the globuni?
The globini, um,
Globini.
the globini, yes. We have been hauling around something that was a crazy idea of mine that many of my friends went about several years ago. And I was wondering what Shakespeare saw as theater when he was a kid. We all know about the Globe. It was originally like a 3,000 seat auditorium, which is bigger than most stages around nowadays, even big professional operatic stages.
Hmm.
3,000 seat. And but what did Shakespeare see when he was a kid? And I found somebody's diary entry, and he said, the players arrived in our little hamlet, no a pun intended, our little village, and it's basically a cart and a curtain. And that's all, and that's what they travel in. It's a cart, and it's got a curtain on it, and they set it up. They have a little platform, and they perform on it. And they do a variety show, basically some juggling, some scenes, japes, tricks, dances, puppetry, etc., and then travel on. I thought, gosh, wouldn't that be cool to take to Renaissance fairs, which is what I perform at a lot. And so after about 20 different iterations of this, and uh, a great deal of money and many hours and friends helping, I created something called what we call the glob, which I'll insert a picture of. And we call it the glob because it's not big enough to be called the globe. So, and it's an 8x8 platform that folds out, and it has a little skein, a little tiring house behind the main stage, and then the 4x8 stage in front. And it rolls up on a trailer, and it assembles, and we've got a custom made canvas cover for it. And then these flags, which are like 8x5 foot flags, which have been printed on with different scenes, and those become our scene background. And they've been a real hit at Renaissance fairs and other recreation events, etc. And they're part of what we're basing our pop-up fairs coming up, that we'll be able to with the glob. There's a 4 hours setup, so we mostly use the glob at Renaissance fairs when I can arrive a day before and take the whole day to set it up, etc. And we realize that for pop-up fairs we don't have the time, because we have to basically assemble the stage and perform within a half an hour, and then pack it up at the end for maybe after a 2 hour fair, and then move it to another section of town and do it again. The glob doesn't is not cannot be done that way. It takes too long to set up. So I bought a round topped wagon, basically the same size, 4x8, basically about 5 feet wide and about 10 feet long. And
Hmm.
we can roll it up, disconnect the truck, and it's a permanent round top trailer. And so we can simply put a stage in front of it, and boom, you're ready to go. And so, the actors can use it for the actual trailer portion, since it's enclosed, to get changed in. And then they do their Shakespeare variety show, which I've been working on for several years. Teach the maypole, teach some dances, do some scenes, teach how fight choreography is going on, sing some songs, teach the audience some songs, show, get them to say some lines, and just have this kind of hell's a poppin' effect. And then go on, and then like I said, pack it up and then move it to the next section of town and do it again. And we've already got 2 grants from the Skagit Valley area up in north of
Hmm.
Seattle, where we're going to be doing this twice at least next year. And we're hoping to get more sponsorship to do it more and actually hire actors to do this, basically mini brief Renaissance fair, to have them all go, wow, we want more. And we can certainly do more. And
Hmm.
then the Glabini is basically we have a period pavilion which is about 12 feet wide and 10 feet deep, and so we can again put a stage in front of that and use that as a background, because the whole idea of having these is so I can be at a Renaissance fair in Idaho, but the glob and the globini can be here, going out to smaller fairs with the local company here. And so that was kind of ability to give us some flexibility. And then the stages can also be rented out to local fairs and things to, if they're having like a beer fest, we can roll our stage in. They can use it as a performance stage.
That's great. And does this tie into the a new truck that you've gotten, or is
Yes,
that what you mentioned?
yeah, we were hauling this around with a little 2002 Toyota Tacoma four-cylinder rear-wheel drive, and it was making it over the Cascades and over the Rocky Mountains, but it was a little bit slow, and it was getting a little bit up there in mileage and whatnot. So we sold that, and I got a Ram 1500. I'll insert a picture. It is bright yellow. And it's which is still black and yellow are two of the main colors of the Washington Shakespearean Festival, so that worked out really
Ah,
well. Uh, I tell everybody that it was not the colors that first to attracted it to me, which is not entirely accurate. I saw the colors and went, "Gee, I hope it has an engine because I really want to buy that truck." And the dealership, Blade Chevrolet, up in Mount Vernon, Washington, was very easy to work with, and they've actually helped out our company before in the past, and so I just really appreciated Paola, who was my contact there, and they just they're kind of our go-to dealership now. Um, and so, yeah, so we've got that so we can haul more stuff, haul our instruments, and actually be able to, if we need to, sleep in the back seat because it's got a full back seat, four doors.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a hauling machine. And like with a 1500 Hemi engine, the Rockies are just kind
Ooh.
of like, yeah, I got a trailer. You want to go 70 miles an hour? No problem. Eats up gas when it's doing that, but other than that, it's pretty good.
That's great. Now you had mentioned your socks and buskin and your Blarney tones, but how about the Martex players?
Martix Players, great group. If you're Shakespearean, want to experience the Martix Players, and PM me, I'll have my contact information. I can send you the link. There are a group of people international, some people in London, some people are from, I think, Eastern Europe, and all over North America. And we get together once every other week and we read through plays, some Shakespeare, some contemporaries of Shakespeare. We just did a reading of Henry V from 15 years before Shakespeare's Henry V. So that was a very interesting thing. We've done Marlowe, et cetera, and then have discussions about it. And it's free. It's, if you're interested, the parts are simply divvied out, and it's about a 2 hour commitment twice a month. But there again, it's just connecting us and made friends there. And there are other Shakespeare groups, interactive groups as well. So if you have an interest in Shakespeare and you're stuck out in the middle of Canada, you can still connect and have these great conversations with people, as well as, of course, with us. We're always happy to pop into a class with a Zoom call on Franklin, on Shakespeare, on acting, on music, Renaissance fairs, etc.,
Mhm.
and happy to discuss what we know.
Tell me more about More Than What Was Wanted.
More than what was wanted. That's actually one of the things that we first started our friendship over.
Yes.
Is a book that's for sale, and it's for sale through Amazon, and it is also available free as a PDF to anybody who wants it. Just PM me. Um, and what it came out of is a desire to know, is it possible to write a full-length Shakespearean style comedy in and to get to it to where it's a performable piece in under 3 months? Because we reported that Shakespeare could write about 3 plays a year, and is that even possible physically to write it? And so
Hmm.
I said, well, there's no information out there, so I would try and write it myself. Now I just come off of translating a movie script from Guy Hamling down in New Zealand, and he wrote a film script called Verona, and it was all done. It's based loosely on Two Gentlemen of Verona. He put it all in modern English, and then he got it into his head that, hey, I'd really like to have this done in Elizabethan England, Elizabethan English. And so he searched the internet for looking for people who could write an iambic pentameter, and he found me. I thought it was a piece of junk mail at first, but then realized that, you don't spam the 5 people in the world that work in iambic pentameter trying to get one of them to invest in your weird company. And so it might be real, and indeed it was. And so we spent 2 of the happiest months of my life going back and forth with long distance calls and the internet, etc., translating a script into iambic pentameter, and it still stands as a work. But then I got this idea about, I need to write a play, just even if it's trash, I need to see how long it takes me to actually write this play. And so I said, well, okay, what will the plot be? And what I did is in my research for, with what Shakespeare had written and other people of his era, I took all the tropes that Shakespeare uses: shipwrecks, missing twins, women dressed as men, servants being smarter than their masters, the drunkenness, um, magic, all these elements that Shakespeare uses time and time again, and then the five basic elements that are in every great tale, Shakespeare or not, which is they all involve something to do with death or the threat of death. Every great story involves order, falling into chaos, then coming back into a sense of order at the end. Love, or its close relations, jealousy and hatred. Transformation, perchance the most important one, where we watch a character change through the story, the play, the movie, whatever, and then we follow them along in their journey. The Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, and his character Christian, use all these different trials, the Bourne trilogies, all Oedipus, all these things show change and transformation, seeing a person change from one thing to another, Luke Skywalker, etc.,
Hmm.
Anna Karenina, etc. Um, and then the last one is sovereignty. Every great tale talks about the sovereignty of the characters. Who owns them? What do they own? Who do they own? What do they have any say over? And then how they deal with it. And it's kind of like if you have these five dials of how much death and a lot of love, or is love just a little bit? And it's really more about friendship, and which is the type of love. And then you kind of play with this, and you see that if you had five dials on your safe, it would be almost impossible to crack because there's so many combinations. Well, if you use those five dials to create your story, then you can create almost endless amount of storytelling. And I've talked about this podcast, Pilar Alessandra's On the Page podcast, which she's had me on a couple times. And so I created a plot line that was involving these tropes that Shakespeare used, so they'd be all familiar to a Shakespearean audience.
Hmm.
But I created this new plot, which was an original plot, which is rather unusual for Shakespeare because he mostly stole most of his plots from older plays. Like
Right.
Midsummer Night's Dream, the Mechanicals play is really Pyramus and Thisbe, which is ancient, which of course is what Romeo and Juliet is based on as well. But I created this thing that involved all these tropes, but was a fairly new plot. And then I sketched it out thoroughly and then wrote it backwards. I wrote the fifth act first and the fourth and third, second, first to make sure everything fit going into the where it had to end up. And after about a month and 5 days or so, I realized I had a functional script. And then I had some actors read it and they said, this is more than a functional script. It's actually a script that could work. And it's not polished, but it's funny. It moves along. The characters are defined. It's got really the leads are what it's about. Everybody else kind of supports them, but it's got some good character pieces. And yeah, I think this would be fun. So there's a version, an early version with a different ending than what's on it now. That's done by Alex Hyde White, the Los Angeles actor. That's available on Audible. It's been published. So now we're doing we've had several versions of it. Now there's asking about the hardback, as we have kind of I'm hoping the final version, which will be coming out in hardback in sometime in 2025. But we have had some interest. You've mentioned some interest. There is a recreation group up in Vancouver, British Columbia, that has got it on their docket to actually perform in 2026 in the fall.
Oh.
Is kind of what they're doing. We've got a children's group based here in the Seattle area, a youth group that's interested in doing some scenes from it. And we've had some on our YouTube channels. There are some scenes from it, etc. And it's available for production, and we hope that it will carry forth. We keep providing the PDF, like I said, anybody who's interested, and we're hoping that it makes but right now it's also used as my teaching text because I have taught or am going to be teaching a class called The Magic of Shakespeare, Shakespeare from the Inside Out, looking at not so much the plays, but on Shakespeare what was happening in his world, what the tropes he was using, the competition he had, the historical things that were happening in Elizabethan England that were
Hmm.
influencing his plays. And all that was coming into a realization of, this is that these plays were not written in a vacuum. They were not written just by somebody sitting in their garret going, "Oh, I think I'll write Hamlet today because it's my art." Van Gogh is real. He produced art without any hope of selling really any of it. He was a true
Hmm.
artist. He just kept producing what he wanted to produce and died in poverty because of it. Um, Shakespeare was not. He was a businessman. And he needed to write plays that people would come and sit. And he and his actors that he knew were writing and performing, rehearsing and performing for an audience that they drank beer with and that they sat in church pews with and who they, owed money to, etc. And so that influence and that, their plays are written for the people of London, which thankfully we still have a lot of today, that those same characters and those same interests, which is why the plays still resonate with us and we can still see ourselves in his characters. And, doesn't take away from his genius because he still wrote what he wrote. But anyway, and so when I'm teaching this class I've taught this class at Western Washington University in Bellingham, teaching it at Seattle Central College, coming up this uh, February, I think it is, for 7 sessions. And I also have taught it before and taught and teaching again for the University of Alaska Fairbanks on their um, uh, all online, and all these are for continuing education lane. So I'm an adjunct professor, excuse me, adjunct instructor at these places when I'm teaching there for this. I'm also teaching the class on Ben Franklin at Western Washington, and the same program. And so this is my teaching text because it has not only the 5-act play, More Than What Was Wanted, which shows that was kind of the proof of all the theories, which is the other half of the book, is laying out these are the tropes that you'll see, and these are the plays you'll see them in. This is how iambic pentameter changes your thought process. This is how you steal from this other thing. This is how we use this trope in Merchant of Venice and in Hamlet and in Twelfth Night and etc. And you see this thing handled differently, but you see it used time and time again, and explaining how this works and how actors have influence, and so that's what's in this book, More Than What Was Wanted, which is the name
Hmm.
of the play that's contained. And so we're still, like I said, looking for a full production sometime. It is about an 18 member cast. It is a 2,700 line load. Um, and it has about the normal spread between male displaying and female displaying, although the way that we work, we could have all females do it and it doesn't matter. We would do
Hmm.
Henry V with all females if displaying, if that's what the cast was. Um, we certainly WSF certainly has no issue with that. But so we're hoping to see it interest. I would want to. It would be a live stream if I were to actually show up to somebody else's theater and see the play produced. And what I want to hear in my ear is that people leaving would say, "Oh, it must not be one of his more popular works," but I laughed. It was a good time, thinking that it was an actual period piece and not
Hmm.
realizing that it was actually a modern piece, and I would die happy. And so, hopefully not right then, but I might because
Oh, no.
this shock might just kill me. And so that's what's happening with that. Like I said, I'm happy to send out the new version. It's got the play really in all. This is like the 13th edition, and the play has had one major change in all those 13 things. And I've caught a number of errors, and some of my editors have caught small little things like the iambic doesn't quite scan here. Oh yeah. But really, the plays are staying the same. What's really changed are the notes. And it's just more people said, "Could you please explain more about this? Could you please take, give me some more references about this particular aspect
Hmm.
of the play?" And so that's really what's changed the most. So the version you have is still pretty close to the one that'll end up. It's like I said, I just go on a lot more in the in this hardback edition, which I'm hoping will be pretty much the last one, unless people say, you misspelled your own name.
Well, what I've read is exceptional.
Well, thank you.
It's I as an actress, I would very much like to be in that show.
I would love to have you do scenes and grab your friends and just do bits and pieces. The shipwreck scene is one of my favorites because there's a section of the book now where I actually included a paper that I wrote comparing the shipwreck scene in Tempest with the shipwreck scene in More Than What Was Wanted, and showing the similarities and the differences. And I didn't just
Hmm.
copy it. I did, but it's kind of like idea that you want to entertain the audience and you have this cacophony going on. How do you tell story when everybody is going around the stage and throwing things overboard, and you've got wind going and stuff, and how do you still communicate to your audience what's going on so they still laugh and or thrill at what they're seeing, when everybody is basically screaming and terrorized. So
Idaho Branch and the New Bardic Multi-Banner.
oh, just real brief, and I will insert a picture of the Bardic banner that we just had done. But yeah, we're opening up a branch of the Washington Shakespearean Festival in Idaho and Boise. We've been performing there at the Idaho Renaissance Fair for several years now,
Hmm.
and there was interest from several of the people at the fair to being in the company and rehearsing and doing other things. And it just so happened that this next year, they have a 2 weekend fair, but the second weekend I am promised in Montana. So I can't be in two places at once. So what I'm hoping to do is have the company with the globini, with the one with the period pavilion behind it as background,
Hmm.
and let them perform, do the maypole dance, do the crazy scenes and acting, and and kind of as a group do what I've done as a solo act, music and dancing and stuff, but they have it broken down like to a 3 or 4 or 5 member company. And we have a director back there, and they all kind of rehearse and just go in and have a bunch of fun. And there are several fairs in Idaho, actually kind of surprising, but there's like 5 or 6 Renaissance fairs in Idaho, and many of them are smaller, and so they could not afford moi to drive all the way out there from Seattle. But they could possibly afford the people who live in Boise to drive an hour or so or 2 hours to a local fair and perform. So that's kind of what we're doing, and we're certainly offering training online, and then going out maybe once or twice in the year beforehand because it's not that far away. Um, and doing some intensive weekend workshops with them and getting them trained into our system, which
Hmm.
is basically like a early Elizabethan system of just work with your audience. The audience is part of the play. Make them part of the play. Force them to be part of the play. You don't have a choice. I'm going to drag you up on stage and put a helmet on you and a spear in your hand, and give you a piece of paper with your lines on it. Everybody sing along and everybody dance, and that type of thing, all with consent, of course. But the idea being that we're not television, where it doesn't matter what you do, watch in your pajamas, whatever. We are up here doing our art, and you just have to watch. No, we're up here doing your art with you. We never perform for an audience. We always perform with an audience. It's one of our credos. And so, as long as it really. When I was trained in theater back in the mid 70s, when I was getting my bachelor's in theater, I had a director, lovely man, cared deeply about our drama department. But one of the things that he taught was that your opening show and your closing show should be exactly the same show. Every show is exactly the same. The people, doesn't matter when people show up, they should see the exact same show. And I quickly found out that to my liking, I don't like that, and I reject it. For what, it's my company. I get to make that decision. And so we very much, it was one person put it. I think it's called hearing the rumor.
Hmm.
It's where that there's a buzz in the audience, whether or not it's audible doesn't matter, but there is a feeling in the audience that changes with every audience. And that performance that you're doing on that Wednesday night is different from the audience and experience that everybody's having on Thursday night. The news has changed. Today, Jimmy Carter died. Bless his soul, and what one of the best, most humane people ever to be in the White House. Um,
Absolutely.
but that's going to change the tone of the next performance when you're talking about the king. If the king's ever on stage, for example, but the king has died, people are going to, there's going to be a resonance there that's going to change. And the actors need to hear that from the audience and feel maybe another beat, maybe just the king has died. And just an extra second for that performance, and then goes back, and then you're always feeling your audience. And it's just like a good storyteller doesn't just blast through the story. If you're sitting there at a campfire, you're looking at the people and go, and then he jumped out of the tree. And then you're waiting, you're getting, are people looking at me? Are they going to get the visual? You always tune for, I'm in a couple bands. And if you're singing, Michael row the boat ashore, whatever, if you're just doing it rote, just like this is the way I've done it 100 times before, that's nice. But so's a record, and so's a jukebox. But if you connect with the audience, they feel that energy. Taylor Swift connects with her audience. They
Hmm.
know that she's performing for them. It'd be in Tokyo, Paris, doesn't matter. She's there for them. And yeah, I mean, you've got the choreography and you've got your sound cues and everything else, and pretty much. But you've got to hear that rumor. And so that's one of the things that we train to. And especially if you're going to go into Chautauqua,
Hmm.
you are listening, you're hearing that rumor of the audience because you're feeling them. What are they interested in? Are they sitting up more when you talk about the actual battles, or are they, as they talk about Franklin and all his lady friends, is that's what's getting their interest? And then you can make jokes and you add new material in and such. And as long as you're not throwing anybody else off, and in Chautauqua it's just you, then you can
Yeah.
so that is very much essential what WSF does. So that is who we are. But then that's, like I said, you go to certain bands because you want to hear them do certain songs and they do them a certain way. And sometimes you want that comfort of being able to tune them out and just go, they're just going to, play the tunes they play every Friday night. That's nice. And I'm going to eat my burger and drink my beer and have a good time. But we believe in that reaching out, and people feel it, this is for me. There'll never be a show like this again. And that's what we want to do. And so, and just that idea, that esprit de corps, that you're working together as a group, and
Hmm.
that, really is, if the audience is being entertained, and you're not bullying anybody, you're not picking on anybody, you're not ridiculing a group who's not particularly in the audience right then. You're always punch up, never punch down. So if you're going to do satire to somebody who's more powerful than you. Um, and you do not mock the handicapped like some
No.
people have. And and if guys in there with big muscles, mock them. He said, I bet I'm stronger than you are. And he goes, oh yeah. I said, yeah, smell this. And it's you can have fun that way. And involve people like that. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do with them. And like I said, we are interested in doing this again in other communities as well. So we can, the ultimate goal of the WSF is to not just have our central area in the Skagit Valley, about an hour and a half north of Seattle, but actually to have branch groups all over the Pacific Northwest, especially Washington State. But to have that way, one of our goals, which I've had thoroughly professional theater people tell me I'm crazy for proposing, is that I want our season to be the same every year. I want to do the canon of Shakespeare and his contemporaries every year.
Hmm.
This has been done. The Shakespeare's Globe Theater did it. I think the 400th anniversary of his birth or death or something. Probably his death in so no, what was it? It was a big anniversary, and they brought in companies from all over the world. It was a headache. It was a major thing. And for one theater to do that is crazy. But if you have 20 different theaters in your network, and like I said, every major college or every community college or every every community around Washington State and dipping into Idaho and Montana and Oregon,
Hmm.
if you had 20 different things, even if they're like one group is a puppet theater, and one group is a children's theater, and one group is a readers theater, just a bunch of people who get together and read through Shakespeare. And then you say, okay, and you kind of like have a deck of cards of the 50 some odd plays and the sonnets and some plays by Marlowe and by Condell's and Hemming. And you can also do music from, you can do, um, you know, Kiss Me Kate, you can do The Boys from Syracuse, you can do When Things Are Rotten. You have all these different options. And of course, you got the Jew of Malta and you don't have to do a full production. You just have to do a production, which means, I mean, Ashland did a production of Macbeth with one actor using finger puppets in the voice of the Simpsons.
Huh.
Is this a dagger I see before me? And damn spot. And it was not a full 9 month run. It was a black box production, I believe, and done for maybe a month or so. But it's a production. And I saw a 5-person Hamlet that was one of the most staggeringly magnificent productions of Hamlet I've ever seen. So the idea of production is very broad. You can see puppets, mannequins. You can do people miming the parts and having people with scripts reading it off stage. You can do the dance version. There's, the ballet you've got of Midsummer Night's Dream. You've got, Verdi and all of his, Beatrice and Benedict. You've got Macbeth. You've got Othello. You've got, all these different productions of Shakespeare in different ways. And if you touch on those, you're still doing it enough. And that, like I said, you could even do a reader's theater and you have 50 people come and listen to it, or you have an audience read. And just like, and I heard of one type of production which really fascinates me, and you would appreciate this as an actor yourself, is that you show up, no rehearsals. You're given your script. You don't know which part you're going to get. And the one direction and you perform that night, script in hand, the one stage direction that you have is whoever you're talking to, walk to them. And then it's performed. It's scary. And then the audience sitting there going, I know that they've never rehearsed this. And so it's a little bit like a jazz jam, it's like, and then you're pulling all the information that you can from the script at that moment. You may have a familiarity with the script. You may be even assigned a part that you've done before. But that is a production, and it doesn't cheapen it. It just shows you all the different ways you can do it. So you're not seeing the same Romeo and Juliet every year. You're seeing, like I said, a one-person Romeo and Juliet. You're seeing the dance, the ballet. You're seeing or maybe you're writing a new opera, or just a new musical of something. And it's all open. So that's what we want to do. But like I said, one theater doing that every year would be you would kill that theater. You'd kill those poor performances. But if you have 20 theaters doing it, it all comes out as everybody does 3 plays. That's less of a season than most theaters have.
Yeah.
Even Shakespeare festivals have. I'll do 6 or 7 plays. Some places like the magnificent Shaw Theater up in Niagara on the Lake in Ontario. It's about George Bernard Shaw, but they're also doing Arsenic and Old Lace. They're also doing musicals. They're also things that Shaw never did. They'll do My Fair Lady and they'll do Pygmalion. And it's if you're ever in the area, I'd recommend. I've never seen a show there. I've never been there, but I know the person who's the managing or the general director, the director of it. Magnificent talent, and they are a major theater, and do some stunning work with everything from cafe shows on up and whatnot. But so the idea that your ability to play with this type of idea does not depend on any one theater. And then you simply take the best productions and you rotate them around. So if you're sitting in Vancouver, Washington, you'll see the majority of the plays come through your town. And then everything else is recorded and shared, and we do it again the next year. That's the goal. As well as also having a year-round recreation Elizabethan village that we can have Ren fairs at, and other types of have a production studio and a living history village where people can actually explore. Shakespeare is a glover's son. What the heck is a glover? You just go down to Home Depot and buy a glove. No, you actually have to make it, and what type of leather, and how do you cut it, and where do you put the gussets, and handmade boots and potters, and actually being able to see and learn. And if you want to come and spend 3 weeks learning how to prepare parchment, learning how to work in a Shakespearean era kitchen, and actually, harvesting and have a working farm. These are all part of a huge plan, and I probably look at the color of my hair. Um, I may not see this come to pass, but if you don't have these type of plans in place, then if you are blessed with a lottery win or somebody who says, "I believe in this, I won the lottery, I hate my kids, here's the money," if you don't have that type of thing in place, then if that does fall on you, then you can make some really dumb decisions. But we've got it planned out that if we just do what we're doing now, we're happy and we're doing good work. If we do a little bit more, if we do more fairs and more schools and more lectures, more classes, and going, like I said, back to New York and other places, that's good too. And really, as I said earlier in that Triangle Fire, we are in the top 10%, baby. And we are very happy to be there and just want to see if we can creep up a little bit more, and spread our version of what makes theater work, which is making the audience involved.
That's wonderful. One more topic, and that is the time token, the AWSM program. Did we
The
discuss it?
awesome program, the artists with what was it? It's awesome. Phew, goodness, I wrote it and I don't even remember the full. Artists with scattered minds. That's it. Artists with scattered minds, which is what,
Mm-hmm.
and the time tokens are simply a system of getting things done by doing something you don't want to do in reward for tokens such as
Awesome.
these, that you get, and that you give this to either, if you're disciplined enough, or you give them to your loved one, maybe your partner, and say, "I don't get to do the graphic design for my new poster. I don't get to rehearse, my lute unless I do the dishes." And so, I hate doing the dishes. I hate doing the dishes. I hate. Okay, here's the token. Oh, I really want that token, and it gets you over that bump. And you simply get this, and you get the token. And go, okay, I've got an hour to practice my lute. Woo! Or to browse the internet, or to play my video game, or whatever. You establish your own. I really like to do these things, and I really need to do these things, and then you kind of find the balance. So it's in beta right now. But the awesome artists with scattered minds, these for the beta people, these are the tokens that we're using. These are ceramic, and I can happy to post what that looks like. And so, but if people are
That's
interested
fabulous.
in being a beta tester for this, again, direct message me, and I'll be happy to send out the PDF file, and you can create your own coins out of pennies or agates or jewelry or whatever it is you have around the house. But if you want, but the actual pieces will have these coins in them, and they're about these things are expensive, and so like a set of 5 is like $50. Was
Ooh.
what they'll be retailing for. But like I said, if you just want to use dollar coins, you can just print out the rules I have and all the game, and have that, because the idea is to help artists get their crap done that they don't want to do.
And that's important.
Well, Mia, thank you so much for your time this evening. I know it's a number of hours later for you than it is for me. And happy holidays. Good. I hope Yule was okay. Blessings on you and your family.
Thank
And
you.
um, and thank you for being a friend in these years. And I look forward to working with you more. And I will let you know when this thing posts.
Please do. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.